All right, folks, good evening, welcome. I'm sitting in for Ayo. Ayo is taking one day off, and just why not? I'm Citizen Jones. Now, today on the program, federal government concerned about job losses in the aviation and other sectors, just as ease of coronavirus lockdown begins in Lagos, the FCT and Ogun state. Let's report, I'm hanging out with Jide. Jide is trying to make this thing fit, but it's good. Talk, make her hear. Yeah. Can you imagine?
I'm the master of non-verbal communication. So I dey take my eye look you.
Yeah, okay. No, I will go see. All right, Owope is here.
Yes, sir.
Yomi, I greet you.
Thank you, sir. Nice
Oh, gentlemen, bedlam in Lagos. It's as if traffic will be banned from tomorrow.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, crazy.
It's,
As if people got out of jail.
As if people broke loose from jail.
It's been like that since
Oh,
5
boy,
a.m.
oh, boy.
up until this point. It's just
All right, so the team is ready. I hope you are. All right, then, it was bound to come to this at the rate we were going. Job loss or job losses. It needs to be reiterated that the federal government had assured that job losses in the federal civil service was not envisaged. The labor minister's assurance in this connection was gospel, if you understand me. We thought then. But the May Day message is no more sacrosanct as it stands. The concern about the job losses was an underlining concern. The aviation sector, for one, was a potential flashpoint owing to the troubled oil sector. Aviation fuel shortage is a key anxiety in flying. Many private concerns, too, had hinted on possible job losses. Is this bedlam? Of course, we saw this coming, you know. But let's remind the viewer that the federal government, through the Minister of Labor, had said, promised on May Day, no job losses. Appears May Day is here, or something like that.
Maybe at the federal level.
Maybe at the federal level,
Yes,
okay. Okay.
There's no act by which the federal government can compel the private sector not to lay off workers. It can make a promise that federal government ministries and parastatals will not lay off any worker. But the federal government has no power to compel private companies not to lay off workers.
Like TVC, for instance.
Like TVC, like channels, like
Name
any
them.
privately owned company.
Yeah.
It's their business to see how they can cut their losses.
Yemi, it's the fear, you know, they call it phobophobia. That's the fear of fear, which is greater than every other forms of fear. The fear is rife. Appears we are almost there.
It's I totally agree that actually because of a pandemic like this, there are some high risk sectors that are immediately exposed to an issue where there's a lockdown across the nation and business is not functional. The banking industry is one of the high risk sectors. Aviation is a big high risk sector because for almost 6 weeks now, planes have not been flying. And already the aviation sector, from the reports that we have, together they're owing almost £1 trillion they're already almost £1 trillion in debt. So it's already a big problem.
You know, banks.
To mainly banks. And we recall in 2017 when AMCON had to step into the ARIC situation back then, because ARIC had made some investments that didn't quite pan out. So already the aviation sector is problematic as it is. Then the banking sector as well, and then you have oil and gas because of the crash in oil prices.
Quickly confirm the story credited to Access Bank. True, false?
So initially it was true. I saw a video where the MD was talking with had a town hall meeting with the staff, and said that they would have to cut some non-essential services, which included security guards, drivers. People they call
security folks are not essential.
Yeah, well,
now I know that.
So they said they talked about people called transaction officers. So they're not actually staff of the bank, but they count money. They help in counting money and bagging the money and packing it and things like that. Those ones, a lot of them would have to go. And then contract staff, so staff of the bank but on contract. So those are, so he talked about some of those categories of staff that they probably would have to lose their jobs because their wage bill on a monthly basis totals about 7 billion naira for wages alone. So it's a big deal for such a bank.
For me, at a time like this, you want to be a logician. You are looking at the logic. A particular company has shut down, not because it wanted to. There's a pandemic and so on. So it's not paying staff. What are you losing? Maybe it's too elementary for you to understand.
No, the truth is, at some point, the government will have to assist some of these companies to stay alive. It happened during the U.S. recession in 2008. The government had to come in to save those big automobile companies in Detroit, in America, and even the airlines. So you remember 9/11, many people refused to fly, and the airlines were in trouble. The government had to come in to assist the airlines to reflate the business. So SMEs will have to be assisted at some point as we go on. Even some of the manufacturing companies, as Asiwaju Bola Tinubu suggested, the government can help them in paying the salary of their staff. We called it payroll assistance, you know, so that they can keep more staff in business. The truth is, when you look at the aviation sector, for example, more than 120 aircraft have been grounded for 4 weeks. They are not making a dime. The Federal Aviation Authority.
But I hear they have to pay parking fees.
I will get there. FAN, for example, FAN is a government agency. Its wage bill is in excess of 4 billion. They've not been able to earn money because all the airlines are grounded. Businesses associated with the airline business, service, those who provide service and all that services, they are also grounded. So what do? And these airlines must pay for leases, aircraft leases. They are exposed to I mean, they are owing banks. There's no way they will be able to service those loans to banks because they are not earning anything. So some of those airlines have placed staff on compulsory leave without pay. What does this mean? It's like sacking those staff without actually telling them, look, you are fired. So it's a very difficult situation for these banks. More than 80% of the staff of most airlines are at home now on compulsory leave without pay. So we can't go on for too long. At some point, government must find a way to assist. It's not enough to say, oh, we don't want to see people being sacked, because I've had government express concern that in the aviation sector, jobs are being hemorrhaged. You have to come out with a policy that assists them to be able to keep a substantial percentage of these workers. Otherwise, they will be forced to lay off workers.
Yomi, except that I'm thinking of, say, a salary slash as a stopgap measure. They say, but even if you slash, where is the money coming?
Where's the money? It's a big problem. Just following up on what Mr. Otitoju just said, over in the US, just 2 weeks ago, there was a $25 billion float for airlines. So already that's helping the airlines keep jobs, even though they still have to let go of a few people. But it's helping. It's already helping.
No flights.
No flights, but that float is there for the airlines to be able to use, and then, of course, when they get back, service the aircraft and then be able to start operations. So there won't be any problems with them starting operations. So I think the CBN will have to step in and work with the aviation companies and the banks to see how number one, these debts can maybe be moved somewhere down the line, and then maybe also give them a float that they can use to support.
And the popular phrase the viewer must remember at this point is all hands on deck. We'll take this breather. We'll return very shortly. All right, after sharing an overview, so to speak, I think we want to go to the basics. Let's start from Lagos here. Businesses have kind of resumed. Don't forget, we're talking about partial, a lifting of the lockdown partially. It will be interesting for those of you up country to appreciate what Lagos was like today. I think we can go there. Gentlemen, quickly, Yomi, Lagos, as I said, like bedlam.
Yes, it's been absolutely crazy since about 5:30 this morning, when people came out of their houses. Most of, from what we saw and from the reports that we got, most of all the rules and instructions that were given by the government were not followed at all. Buses were picking up people indiscriminately. People were hanging from doors, you know.
Oh, yeah.
It was, I mean, all over the place.
Were you surprised? Now, we'll take a footage. Let's share this with you, just so you appreciate what we are saying. This is Lagos. The madness is back.
There are many people in the bus.
And this is all over Lagos, where, you know, traffic is horrendous. So some people with face masks, a lot of them without.
This is a bank premises.
This is the bank.
It's a bank in Ikotu.
And that last one you saw was at a bank.
That was a bank in Ikotu. They were trying to.
You thought you were watching a break-in or something.
It was crazy. Apparently, the bank was trying to limit the number of people entering the banking hall
At a given time.
at a given time. So, but the people then got a bit impatient after waiting for a few hours. So they then tried to push down the security to make.
Gidi is not surprised or easy.
Actually, we should have known that this would happen. I heard the DG of the NCDC saying that we will have infections because of what happened today. How do we now mitigate this? What we don't want is an explosion. If we do have an explosion, there will be no option for the leadership of the country to send us back inside again. So, for me, the government caved in under persistent pressure. There is not enough palliatives to go around. It's not even practicable to give palliatives to everyone. Even in the advanced countries, it is those who participate in the economy, those who pay taxes, that get to receive any form of support in times like this.
So it's not a blanket thing.
No. No one can say, oh, in the UK, everybody gets something. No, that's not possible. Because your tax receipts will qualify you for something. We all know that in our country, not everyone pays tax. So the truth is, we wanted to do our best to ease the pain on our people. But as we have seen, our people would not obey instructions. We see bus conductors and drivers keeping their mask in their pockets, so that if they are apprehended, they will say, oh, I have a mask. You bring it out. Is that the way?
Look at this. Look at how many passengers do you think you have there?
So they said only 60% of your capacity. But buses are being filled to capacity. We are seeing even motorbikes, Okada, carrying 2 persons at a time.
And Okadas have actually been banned during
They are
this period.
supposed to be locked up somewhere. But they are going around, exploiting the fact that there are so many passengers to pick. And there's a lot of these drivers are not complying.
Can you imagine?
They said drivers that transporters must have sanitizers. You must give sanitizers to your passengers. You must fumigate your bus after every trip. We said that it will not happen in Lagos. These guys are laws unto themselves. And this is what we have seen today. Look at this vehicle. Is it 60% capacity that they are carrying? And it will be worse in the evening when people are trying to beat the time of the curfew.
Let me get this right. Was the partial lockdown, also lifting the partial exercise, was supposed to have lasted between 6 and 2 p.m.?
No, they're up to the time when the curfew begins. There are some specific businesses like the banks, you close at 3 p.m.
Okay.
Even eateries that are meant to supply clients. They don't need to sit inside those eateries, but they too are expected to close around 3 o'clock, so that you can have enough time to go home and beat the curfew. That's the idea. So
Yomi, not sounding alarmist, the NCDC is telling you it's a vision, it's a prophecy, but if it breaks, we are in trouble.
I think we have a situation where it seems like the case is that Nigerians want to see to believe. You know, they want to experience COVID-19 before they can believe it, because it's not going to be beneficial to anyone in the area of their health or in the area of the economy if there's now an extended lockdown. There were countries where, and cities where the lockdown was up to 90 days, almost 3 months before they came out. Wuhan, where the disease started, the lockdown was 76 days, which was again more than 10 weeks. So we have had just 5 weeks, and I think perhaps the government should have extended slightly more. And then apart from that, not even just opening up the economy the way they have done, have sensitization campaigns across various groups and catchments, especially the NURTW and all of them. This sensitization campaign will then be able to then make sure that the drivers of these commercial buses comply.
At least we know that MC Oluomo, the boss of the transport men, gave specific instructions. This, that, and that. Your passenger must be wearing a mask. Not many of them are.
Even the drivers, a lot of the drivers are not wearing. I just told you that some of them kept it in their pockets, as if it's meant to design their pockets. This thing, you're supposed to put it on.
Oh boy.
But they won't listen. We knew they won't listen. The truth is, I only hope the kind of crowds that I saw today, I fear for our country, because even countries that are better managed this thing, and when we talk about better managed, countries that have ramped up testing, countries that ensure that they've kept the number of fatalities low, the moment they ease the lockdown, they experience a spike in new cases.
Jide, don't you feel like applauding India with its size?
They are refusing to, yes, the Indians have done so well.
That's the point
but they have also gone through great pains. Some of the people that we have allowed to move around, while we say we have lockdown in place, in India they were not allowed to move around. And the Prime Minister said that, look, we have to suffer for 21 days so that we can enjoy for 21 years. The Indians understand that. In Malaysia, as we speak, the number of new cases is going down. Yet, the leader of the country decided to still extend in spite of that. In the case of Nigeria, the number is going high in a manner that shocks people. But we are choosing to ease things. So The truth is, I'm interested in seeing the result, maybe in the next 1 week or 2 weeks. Honestly, what the NCDC DG said may happen. If we experience an unusual spike, a responsible government will come back and tell Nigerians, look, you people should go back home. Because we are supposed to obey. Did you listen to the speech made by Boss Mustafa, the SGF?
Yeah,
He said he's not happy that people chose to not obey instructions.
That's it.
They want to ease the burden. They want to ease the pain on Nigerians. But a lot of us are difficult.
Everything you hear is, man must chop. As if we live to eat and not eat to live. Okay, but meanwhile, let's tell you this. While the lockdown meant to contain the spread of COVID-19 lasted, one sector hardest hit is the transport business. Our correspondent took a look at how commercial transport operators in Nigeria's commercial nerve center, Lagos, survived during the period of the ban of movement for non-essential services. Watch on, please.
The coronavirus has proven to be disruptive to Nigeria's economic growth and supply chains. Businesses are badly affected, forcing many offices and shops to shut down. The economy is in a tailspin. Like the others, Africa's largest economy is battling with the devastating impacts of weeks of lockdown. And as the country continues its worrying record of daily confirmed cases, various sectors are beginning to adjust to the socio-economic realities. While some are devising new ways of doing business, others are counting their losses. One of the worst hit is the public transportation sector. As a commercial bus driver, Shola Snooker tells me the last few weeks has been his worst in many years.
Wọ́n ní kí Fanagan máa ṣiṣẹ́ àfi Fanagan iṣẹ́ mọ́tò tí mò ń lò lélẹ̀. Bá a bẹ gọ́ọ̀mẹ̀ntì kán bá wa díwọ́ kínní kó wálẹ̀ kọ́wọn èèyàn máa ṣiṣẹ́. Ẹ̀rù kòrónà ń bà mí o torí ẹ̀ mo ṣe jẹ́ kí ìyàwó mi àtọmọ mi kú òǹlé ọ̀hún kú òǹlé rárá.
Shola appeals to the government to instill discipline in security operatives who he accused of having cashed in on the situation to fleece commercial drivers in the past few weeks.
Ọlọ́pàá ni problem tá a ní.
Àwọn ọlọ́pàá ṣe ń gbowó lọ́wọ́ wa lójú ọ̀nà. Owó tí mọ́tò ń gbà lọ́wọ́ wa gan-an ìlàjì ẹ̀ làwọn ni wọ́n ná fáwọn ọlọ́pàá torí ká tó débi tá à ń lọ gan lè bá wọn tó ọ̀nà mẹ́jọ.
Shola is just one of the many commercial drivers who earn their living with daily struggle, moving passengers from one point of the mega city to the other.
No doubt that the lockdown has been a tough one for many Nigerians, but commercial drivers believe they are the most hit as they have been forced to park their vehicles, which is the source of their daily bread for weeks.
Their vehicles are gathering dust in various parks, while their personal bills are piling up as the government battles to contain the spread of the virus.
Driver lèmi láti bí oṣù kan sóṣù mélòó sí tẹ́ ikọ́ ọ̀la ìbẹ̀rẹ̀ sìn everybody wá kàn park mọ́tò kalẹ̀ ẹni tó ń lọ ibi iṣẹ́ ò rí ibi iṣẹ́ lọ mọ́ àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ ọwọ́ gan everybody ò rí ọjà tà mọ́ oríṣiríṣi nǹkan tí ò ṣẹlẹ̀ tẹ́lẹ̀ lórí kó fẹ́ máa ṣẹlẹ̀ báyìí látàrí kí ẹni pé ẹni tó ń lọ ibi iṣẹ́ tí ò rí ibi iṣẹ́ lọ mọ́ adáfẹ́ bọ́yàwó afẹ́ bọ́ ọmọ èmi sì ìyàwó méjì ọmọ mẹ́rin wà ní pẹ̀lú mi ó ti yé ó yí dísìn àti páàkì mọ́tò kalẹ̀ sí kí la fẹ́ fi tọ́jú ọmọ kí la fi bọ́yàwó.
It was very difficult for me and I have no money to give my children so I just try to escape to come here that I can see my friends that I will borrow money to go and give them to eat. I want the government to just release us from this lockdown. As MC Oluomo have said that we should cope with the government, so that's why everybody, you can see so many buses here now. They are not working, so that's why.
For the state government, such measures are necessary to guarantee safety of lives at this critical time.
We are not about to compromise the lives of our community just because we don't know how to read use the temperature reader. We will train people how to use it, and we will take temperature because our commuters, the life of our commuters is priority to us. The essence of having social distancing is to protect the passengers next to you. So if I speak or I cough, the likelihood, especially if I have COVID-19, of the next person catching is almost 100%. But when we have a meter or two between the passengers, we reduce that probability drastically. So we have taken these measures because life is of essence, and we are not about to compromise the life of commuters, as I've always said.
The National Union of Road Transport Workers, Lagos State Chapter, says this represents a hard time for all the union members as they join the government to contain the spread of the virus, even as it affects their business. One of the new challenges in Africa's biggest commercial hub will be how to implement the policy of social distancing in an unstructured and largely overcrowded informal public transportation system. As people begin to gradually adjust to the new ways of life, the disruptions will continue to impact people in different ways, depending on the job they do.
They should look for a way that people will feel their impact in their life. Like my working place, they have to produce a bus that will be paying, they will be carrying people from their houses to my office. But like for some people that are living far, they couldn't make it to office. It is very, very stressful for people to walk down from their house to where they are to their destination. The state has their own bus that they are like Lamata or whatever the name is. They need to like work on the way it's going to be easy for people, as a means of transport for people that will not collide people jam-packing themselves in the bus.
For now, the authorities are easing the lockdown with curfews and restricted movements. Many are optimistic of a quick return to the good old days of a busy, boisterous and bubbling metropolis that never sleeps. In the meantime, one thing is sure. This pandemic exposes some truths about how Nigeria operates an urban transportation system that is uncoordinated and unsustainable.
Beautiful report, Yomi, but you know, I always think about the Nigerian DNA. Here the complaints galore.
Yes.
The measures are taken to protect you, yet the Nigerian is never persuaded.
It just feels like we have a huge problem on our hands, and if not carefully managed, we're going to see a lot of deaths happen and a lot of infections as well happen over the next few weeks. But what strikes me from that report is the high level of poverty also that we've seen especially in this unstructured transportation sector. The fact that there's a lot of people who are saying that is all they can use to survive. But another thing that I need to also point out is that over the past 2 to 3 years, we've seen that the present transport system is not even sustainable. They are beginning to phase them out. Many locations in Lagos, there are no more kekes, there are no more okadas. Eventually, they're going to, whether we like it or not, they're going to phase out the Paragon buses to replace them with the bigger buses and also rail transport when it begins to function. So even these guys that we're listening to just now complaining that they don't have jobs, eventually those buses are going to be phased out. So alternatives are what we need to start thinking about now. The bigger buses, how do people sit in them? When the trains come, we can also maintain social distance with those. But already we have a big problem on our hands, and we can see it play out every day on our streets.
Well, Jide is not saying anything less, because we can see tomorrow today, So those and many of these people who complain about joblessness, Jide, many of them are not employable, if you see what I mean.
Yes, but we need them all the same. you are not going to leave your job now and become a bus conductor or a bus driver. Some people must do that at this point before we transit to something more meaningful to the people. At least they remain useful in the economy. So we have to look at what our people are going through. If we say that these drivers must not pick more than 60% of the capacity of their buses, they are going to pass that burden on to the passengers. As some of those passengers said, the transport fares will go high up because the driver, yes, he wants to take just 60 passengers, but he also wants to make money. Because at the end of the day, it delivers a certain amount of money to the bus owner. For most of them, they do not own those buses. And the bus owner will not be willing to entertain excuses. Where is my deliver? That is the question that they ask.
Me, at this point, I'm not trying to impress you. The man who complained, the driver who complained, he had 2 wives, 4 children. What am I going to do to feed them? That's also, it's a two-way street.
It is the kind of complaints and pains people are going through that the government took cognizance of and then decided to ease this burden on our people. I think that generally public transportation workers in Lagos State, they respected the lockdown. Only a few of them were breaching it while the lockdown lasted. So a lot of them have really sacrificed, refusing to put those buses on the road when the government said, no, you cannot move around. So you can understand the pain that they have expressed in that story by Karima. So, but now that the lockdown has been eased up, what are they doing? Are they complying with the chains of guidelines that the government reeled out? The answer is no. Because in those bus parks, if you send people to those bus parks, those things, those measures that the government outlined, that these transport workers must comply with, they are not in place. They are just not in place. They have been told that each of them must have infrared equipment, that they must have, what's it called, sanitizers. Every person going into your bus must have his hands sanitized. How many places did our reporters see people being given the sanitizer to use by bus drivers today? So this is the thing. And if we go on this way, we are going to be shocked at the level of new cases.
Okay, Yakub is reaching us from Ogun State. Yakub, good evening to you. Brother Yakub, are you there? Okay, before we get Yakub, Yomi, can we talk about this? CBN has halted banks from disengaging staffers.
We referred to this earlier. The fact that it's a lot of this stemmed from the initial move, that preemptive move that Access Bank made.
Okay, Yakub is here.
Give the man kudos, because look at Kaduna State. He extended it by 1 month. Babajide said something earlier. Even the country that they manage this patient perfectly more than Nigerians, they are still extend their lockdown more than a month. What is wrong with us? This thing shows us that we are just giants of Africa by mouth. Although there is not any structure on ground for Nigerian citizens, ordinary citizens, that Nigerian government can just give us palliative that will make all of us stay at home, not go now. Now, people are hungry, they want to go out. We have 2 things now. Either you are hungry and then you want to go out to go and carry virus. And then in that report I just watched, there's one thing that we missed there. One woman said that even those people carrying pepper, carrying yam, carrying all those things, they were complaining that the Nigerian police that was paid by Nigerian taxpayer money, they are still collecting money from them. He said that they will meet them almost 8 or 10 before they even get to their destination. What is wrong with us in this country? Police are still make this situation To us, look at the woman talking there, because they were collecting money from there, even to get to their destination. And then when they get there, they will add this money to the product. And then what are we talking about? I'm afraid.
Thank you,
1 to 2 weeks coming now. I'm afraid the amount of number that is going to come out as a confirmed cases.
Okay, Yakub. Yomi, it's a...
It's a touchy subject, and people feel very strongly about it. People are very emotional about it, especially for those who are facing it directly. Like some of the people that we've heard about, if you go on any express, during this lockdown, you will see so many checkpoints. So even if you are a designated essential worker, you will still have to face some of the challenges.
It depresses you when you hear that the police, which is at the arrowhead of this enforcement, is missing in action, in a manner of speaking. And so why have we sunken this low?
It's tough. I don't know. I think it was probably at the last minute, maybe the final week, that we heard the Ogun State government try to do something for the security forces in the area of palliatives as well, handing out some relief materials to them, as it were, which was last week or so. But I think the police can do better. Even if there is another extension or something happens maybe over the next few weeks.
Yeah, so we're talking about the CBN and the directive to...
So basically the backstory was, there was this preemptive move that Access Bank made, that there will be job losses within their own business. And the main issue that they were having at the time is the fact that two banks came together, Access Bank and Diamond Bank, just a few months ago, and there were no layoffs. So at this point, they now have a huge outlay that they have to spend on a monthly basis to pay staff salary, totaling about 7 billion. And so for that reason, they said they were going to let go of certain categories of people, non-essential people, transaction officers, contract staff, to start with, and then also cut salaries. And then we then began to hear across the industry that other banks were going to follow suit, because it seemed like Access Bank had taken the lead. So immediately the bankers committee stepped in, of course, with the help of the CBN, and they sat down, had a discussion, and they said, okay, there will be no job losses at this time, but we don't know how long that is going to last, and whether the banks will still be able to carry this burden for much longer. So even the banks might need some kind of help. The way it's looking over the next few weeks.
The truth is, up to this morning, bank staff were still being given letters and told not to report for work. So whatever the bankers committee or the CBN has done, in my view, it amounts to postponing the evil day. The banks will still lay off staff because that is their nature. And unless some form of help comes, the banks know that they are heavily exposed to oil companies and even airlines. More than 3 million is being owed Nigerian banks by oil companies. The price of Brent crude has gone down significantly. Many of the local oil companies cannot make profit at this time, because even the price at which our oil gets sold is below the cost price. So our oil must sell at between $25 to $33
for there to be
them to have a semblance of profit.
Now oscillating between $10, $11.
No, sometimes 14.8 80 cents or something like that. So it keeps fluctuating, and we have many vessels on the high seas carrying Nigerian oil that people have not come, because we have no means of even storing the product. So they are on the high seas, nobody is buying. So the banks already know that they will face serious problems because of the fact that airlines that are owing them, local airlines in Nigeria are owing them no less than one trillion. And then oil companies too, they are owing them. The banks could fall into the kind of mess that they found themselves in 2016. We are approaching the 2016-like scenario when even the naira slid terribly against the dollar.
Yeah.
So many things are happening that this corona virus has precipitated. It was unplanned and unbudgeted for. So the problems that it has brought, there is no way that job losses across many sectors of the economy can be avoided.
Yeah.
Where companies can do salary cuts, of course they are going to do that. Some are already doing that. Even some of those who have not been sent on compulsory leave, 80% of the staff in the aviation sector, some of them already have been made to take massive pay cuts. So sacrifice would ultimately be made.
Oh, yeah.
I don't believe. I read that story that that the bankers committee. But as at this morning, I know someone who got a letter saying don't come to work because some of those branches are already being merged. They are looking at how they can save costs because they know that with the fact that they are heavily exposed to the this foreign, local oil companies and airlines, that the coming days will be difficult for them in the banking sector.
All right, Yomi, let's break this. Did the government have a choice in easing the lockdown? We can go there.
Well, it's especially for a city like Lagos, it's very tough. It's not that easy to be a leader at this point. So to be the governor of Lagos State, for instance, is going to be a very tough job because you are trying to manage the human angle of the job. You're also trying to manage the scientific and the health angle. Okay, we don't want too many cases of these things on our hands, and then the governance angle as well.
Is there a meeting point?
There's a meeting point. The meeting point is, well, understanding that, yes, we know your pain, and then appealing to people to be a bit more patient. I think that's where we'll probably have to fashion our messaging, getting the people to be a bit more patient, extending the lockdown a little bit, even though that is no longer possible at this time because now the people have come out, they've tasted freedom, so it's going to be hard to then say go back home. But it's tough to be able to have a meeting point at this time.
Corona is still in the air.
Ihekwezu is hinting that could happen. Because
so it's...
They are the ones on ground, they are the ones that the president rely on tremendously in taking his decisions. And if these cases become almost unmanageable, I'm sure that the NCDC will recommend to the president that this lockdown should be uneased. So don't let us go. They will recommend that we go back to how it used to be.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. All right, we have company. Raleigh is reaching us. He's in Lagos here. Welcome. Good evening.
Hello, sir. Good evening, sir.
Welcome.
Yeah, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Sir, in case of the easing of the lockdown in Lagos State now, the security agents, the police officers, they are really, really taking advantage of my area. We're using them.
Which is your area?
Atipaja, sir.
Okay. All right.
These policemen, they are really extorting people. And when I thought maybe it was because of their salaries and all that, or something like that. But I made findings. I checked that like the minimum basic salary for these people. These people are earning well. Yeah. They are earning good things. And they are still extorting poor Nigerians of how much? 100 naira, 50 naira.
I'm sorry, if I might engage you a little. It's a tough order, tall order here. It takes two to tango. When they extort, it means they are willing hands who pay.
Yes, sir.
So you think if you refuse, anything untoward will happen?
Sir, come again, sir. Come again, sir.
If you refuse to give any money to the policeman, would anything happen?
All right, nothing will happen. But
oh, really?
These policemen, they are they are so convincing. Like the way they do it, they'll find a fault. No matter how well prepared, you'll find a fault.
As a pedestrian, they find a fault with the way you walk, or what? I don't understand.
I'm talking about motorists, man.
Sir, we've experienced different cases of harassment in our area.
Okay.
So I know what I'm talking about.
We feel your pain. Okay. We feel your pain.
Yeah.
Yemi, so the problem will always be there. But we can go there. Nigerians can say no to these things, you know, but we want freedom. We don't want to fight for it.
We have a really tough problem on our hands, and I really feel like this is the point where we need to start engaging one another and also engaging among our communities that, look, we have a problem here. It's a health problem. It's an unseen disease, an unseen enemy. And people need to understand that they have to take precautions to take care of themselves and their family. You cannot say that I have my family at home, so I will go and hustle and mix with other people and not take precautions. You're still going to take the disease back to your community. Home. So we need to continue this engagement, the media, the government, so that people can really understand that this is a problem and you are part of the solution to the problem. And part of being a part of the solution also means telling the next person what they need to do when you observe that they're not doing
it. How safe are the policemen, Jide? Can we really fathom this?
A lot of the policemen are being infected. They are like our doctors and nurses who are on the front line, because many of these transporters bringing food, bringing produce into Lagos and other areas, they are infected. They are infected. Yet the policeman is the first person to engage them.
Yeah.
Sometimes they turn back these people. Remember the numerous Almajiris from Kano who got to Kaduna and tested positive. A huge percentage of them who came in from Kano tested positive. So policemen are the ones who effect this arrest. Remember the case of even some people who hid themselves in beans bags.
Oh, yeah.
The police arrested 22 of them. They were coming from Zamfara into Abuja. So the policeman engages you. In doing his job, he also puts his own life at risk. So, yes, a lot of them are demonstrating tendencies of the corrupt. But we have to realize that they are also endangered species at this time. And it's one of the reasons the IG said, no, we don't want you to keep people in police cells at this time. Because you don't know who you are keeping there.
Yeah.
You could end up infecting a sizable proportion of the police population. In New York, for example, about 4 out of 6 of the 36,000 policemen in New York are either at home, sick, or have tested outright for the coronavirus.
Yeah.
So how does the police work effectively even in New York when a good proportion of them are infected?
Well, the answer is in the police.
So this is the thing.
Here.
And then many Nigerians, it's difficult for Nigerians to say no to the police. They've seen many Nigerians who are shot dead by policemen just because they will not give 50 naira or whatever to the
20.
police. Yes. And what usually happens? They are detained after a while, they are released. The person who is dead is dead. So many Nigerians will not be ready to fight it out with a policeman who is insisting on being bribed.
Let's jump through this. Abuja pastors and compliance with the ban on social gathering. That's also on the cards this evening.
To a large extent, most churches have complied with the stay-at-home and the lockdown and closing churches and all of that. But we've had a few churches that have insisted on opening.
You saw the Malam who was flogged on the orders of
Nazareth.
Yeah.
Yes, I saw that. So most churches have tried
good
to
development.
Yeah, most of the large churches have also given instructions to all their branches to shut down operations for now. So most churches are not working. But you've had the situation where once in a while some churches have opened.
These ones even have to jump the fence because they saw the task force people coming. The pastor scaled the wall and ran away. But they were able to arrest some of the church members.
Quickly, Kano, before we close, PTF team blames COVID-19 for death.
Yes.
says 80%. So we are eventually
And the good thing, the Guazo himself, who said this to journalists, is from Kano. He's a citizen of Kano, so it is the truth. And he said, we have to sit up now in Kano because we can no longer say we do not know what is killing people. That's what he's saying. They now have an idea what's killing people. And these deaths are related to COVID-19. If we see the quantum of Almajiris who have tested positive, you then would want to say that people who are saying this disease is the disease of the rich men, they need to sit up and think.
Yeah.
Because an Almajiri is not a rich person. But this is a virus that is running riot, and we have to take drastic steps to check it.
Yomi, quickly,
Yes.
Professor Akinola of MURIC, Muslim Rights Concern, is saying the Kano is the idea of making Kano a hotbed is to deplete the Muslim population.
I don't
most
think,
unfortunate.
It's an unfortunate statement. I don't think that's the right statement to make. Kano is actually fast becoming the new epicenter of this disease for Nigeria. And even the initial lockdown that they tried, they've overtaken Abuja, and if care is not taken, they will overtake Lagos within a matter of days. I think something needs to be done about Kano, and I think it starts with a lockdown of that state, which has not been done yet.
Okay, then.
The Murik man, I don't think it's everything that he says that Nigerians should take seriously. People in Kano now know that they have a battle on their hands.
Oh, yeah.
And we must encourage them and support them to win that battle, not place accent on what...
Kano, our hearts and minds are with you. Yomi Owope, thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
And Jide, thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming.
That's it for today. The program returns tomorrow. But if you missed this, watch the program on other platforms, which will show on the screen, and on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. The feedback channel remains the same. On behalf of the Backroom Boys here, I'm Citizen Jones Hussein. Bye-bye now.